And he said, this is going to be really hard for you. It's okay if you cry.
He treated me like an animal, a dog.
Alicia Kozakiewicz has lived every parent's nightmare.
Alicia Kozakiewicz disappeared from her home in Crafton Heights.
The room was pitch black at this time. Over the next 4 days, I was raped and beaten and tortured in that basement.
I am that 13-year-old girl who was lured by an internet predator. Beside me, there are so many young girls whose stories will never be heard because they are dead.
Just helplessness.
Imagine this, a 13-year-old girl minding her own business when she was lured away by a creep she met online.
Because I had been talking to him for a little over 6 months, about 8 months actually, and he groomed me. And in doing so, he brainwashed me.
He took her all the way to Virginia and kept her captive in his basement for 4 days, all chained up in his basement. Now, what exactly led to this situation? Who really was that guy? Let's see. This is the story of Alicia Kozakiewicz, a 13-year-old girl who was abducted by a sexual predator she met online. And this is one that will leave you feeling a mix of anger, anxiety, and sadness. Now, as we go deeper into this story, we will explore the dangers of the internet, the horrors of child sexual exploitation, and the bravery of a young girl who survived a nightmare. This modern world of technology has provided new avenues for sexual predators to lure and exploit children. The internet, cell phones, chat rooms, MySpace, Facebook, and digital cameras have become the tools that these cunning criminals use to trap their victims. This was the case of Alicia Kozakiewicz,
Sit and watch it on TV and you never think it can happen to you. Oh my God.
who was lured by a predator, transported across state lines to Virginia, and enslaved by a sadistic pedophile monster.
Enslaved by a sadistic pedophile monster.
Her story is a warning to all parents, guardians, and children who use the internet. On New Year's Day in 2002, Alicia Kozakiewicz was just like any other teenager, stepping out of her parents' home into the world. Little did she know that this step would lead her into a living nightmare. Alicia had agreed to meet someone whom she'd been chatting with online for 6 months. It was supposed to be a friendly meeting, but things took a sharp turn from the expected. The day started like any other day for Alicia and her family. They were having a family dinner, and between dinner and dessert, as Alicia's mother was clearing the table, Alicia went up to her room. Her parents called her down for dessert, but she was nowhere to be found. She had walked out of the front door to meet this person, just to say hi, who she thought was her friend.
And I never went outside alone after dark. And on this night, completely out of my character, walked out of my front door. I was just popping outside to say hello to my friend.
As Alicia walked up the street, the little voice inside her started to scream, "Alicia, go home."
I heard this little voice, and it said, "Alicia, what are you doing? Turn around, go home, this is dangerous."
Her intuition started to scream at her, but she ignored it. The person she was supposed to meet called her name, and the next thing she knew, she was in the car with him. He squeezed her hand so tightly that she thought it was broken.
And there was a monster, and he was barking commands at me. Be good, be quiet, the trunk's cleaned out for you.
And started telling her warnings that the trunk was cleaned out for her. He continued to drive and drive and drive, until eventually he hit a toll booth. Alicia hoped that the person inside would see her crying, be alerted, and the nightmare would end. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. The car pulled up to the toll booth, the money was exchanged, and the gate went up, and he continued on. At that moment, Alicia lost all hope. She realized that she needed to do whatever it took to survive. He took her down into the basement, down these winding, long stairs. Inside was what can only be described as a dungeon. It was a really terrifying place, and it looked like there were things all over the wall that were meant to cause pain. He propped her up on the table and told her that this was going to be hard for her. "It's okay to cry," he said.
Propped me up on a table, and he told me that this is going to be hard for you, it's okay, cry.
He then held her captive with a chain around her neck and a knee-locked collar. Over the next 4 days, Alicia was subjected to unimaginable horrors. She was raped, bound in chains, shocked with volts of electricity, and hung by her arms as he beat her 13-year-old body. The man who abducted Alicia even videotaped her bound and chained and shared those images over the internet. He treated her like an animal, a dog. For the first 3 days, Alicia did everything she could to stay alive. She endured pain, humiliation, and degradation, all in the hope that someone would eventually come to rescue her.
He held me captive by a chain to my neck and a locked collar. And I mean, let your worst nightmares come to your mind.
But on the 4th day, her captor made it clear that he was going to kill her. And that's when Alicia knew that she had to take matters into her own hands. She thought about her family and wondered if she had told them that she loved them enough. She thought about her own life and decided that she was going to do whatever it took to get away, even if it meant risking her life. And then, in the middle of the night, she heard a commotion outside. It sounded like someone was breaking into the house. She thought that her captor had sent someone to kill her, and she was terrified. Alicia's heart was pounding in her chest as she heard the boots walking closer to her hiding spot. She knew that this was it, the moment that she had to fight for her life. She dragged the heavy chain behind her, preparing for whatever was to come. Suddenly, the door burst open, and she saw a figure walk into the room. She couldn't make out his face, but she could see the gun in his hand. She braced herself for the worst.
I heard the door crash in. I could hear people breaking into this house at the end of a gun. And thinking that this is it. This is the moment I'm going to die.
The man walked closer to her, and Alicia saw her chance. With all the strength she could muster, she lunged at the man, swinging the chain with all her might. The metal connected with the man's arm, causing him to drop the gun. Alicia wasted no time. She grabbed the gun and pointed it at the man, her heart still racing. She had never held a gun before, but she knew that this was her chance to escape. She made her way for the door, her eyes scanning the room for any other danger. She could hear people outside tearing the house apart. They were looking for her. With one hand on the doorknob and the other on the gun, Alicia took a deep breath and opened the door. She stepped out into the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. As she made her way down the hall, she could hear the chaos outside growing louder. She saw the light from a flashlight.
My tears wetting her fur, waiting for death, when I suddenly heard the loudest crash. Voices screaming, "We have guns! We have guns!" And then I saw the most beautiful letters in the alphabet. FBI.
And then another. She knew that the FBI were here. They had come to save her. As she approached the end of the hallway, she could see the figures of several people in yellow jackets with the letters FBI emblazoned on the back. She felt a wave of relief wash over her. She was safe. Her dad ran up to her and hugged her tightly. She knew that nothing could ever hurt her again, as long as her dad was there to protect her. You see, as the story goes on, it's very clear that the experience has left a lasting impact on her. Even in the interviews, she speaks with a sense of urgency and warning, reminding us all of the dangers that are out there. And as she shares her experience, it's hard not to feel a sense of empathy and connection with her. But perhaps the most compelling part of Alicia's story is her determination to survive. Even in the face of unimaginable horror, she never gave up. She fought with everything she had, even when it seemed like there was no hope. The man who abducted Alicia bragged to his friends about the girl held captive in his basement. He even showed a live video of her via webcam broadcasting. But thankfully, one of his friends had a conscience and came forward to the FBI, and Alicia was rescued. The man who abducted Alicia was later identified to be a former computer programmer, Scott Tyree. But Alicia's story does not end there. The road to recovery for Alicia has not been an easy one. She has had to face the trauma of her ordeal and rebuild her life. She's also become an advocate for the protection of children and is working to raise awareness about the dangers of the internet. Her bravery and determination to overcome her past are truly inspiring. In the end, what I would like to add is that Alicia's story is a warning to all of us about the dangers that lurk on the internet. Yes, it's a reminder that the sexual predators are out there and that they will stop at nothing to exploit and abuse children. As parents, guardians, and responsible internet users, it's our duty to protect ourselves and our children from these dangers. Alicia's story is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope, right? Anyway, who would have thought that a simple online conversation could lead to such a horrific experience? It's scary to think that these predators are out there, lurking on the internet, waiting for their next victim. What we can do is be all aware and vigilant. And if you or someone you know has been a victim of internet predation, there is help out there. Anyway, we'll meet again soon with another episode. Until then, stay tuned.